All right, welcome back, brothers, sisters. I'm Braden. This is Langley Outdoors. We have a special live edition today. There's so much going on around this judge that just got arrested for openly violation immigration law in an immigration court from the bench because the left is losing their collective minds. Apparently, Trump has become Hitler again for some reason. This time it still won't stick. And accountability is making a comeback. Guys, this is a big moment. And I know a lot of you have been waiting for accountability because I have been waiting for accountability. The nation is thirsty for some accountability, and we're about to walk through the entire thing right now in this special edition live. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Of course, guys, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on because you guys are being unsubscribed actively by YouTube. So just make sure you guys haven't been pilfered from that subscription. But we've got to dive into this, guys, because this is something that a lot of people in our world were highly vocal about. When do we see arrests? Well, you're starting to see arrests, people, and I'm going to show you the fallout too. So if you are not familiar, this happened last night if you're living under a rock, because the left is seriously, if you have something with a plug in it, you've heard about this from the left. Breaking. The FBI arrested a Wisconsin county judge accused of helping a man avoid immigration enforcement in escalation of Trump's fight with the judiciary. This isn't a fight with the judiciary. This judge, who is responsible for enforcing the law, was breaking the law. Instant credibility loss. Accountability needs to be issued and dealt out. It has been. That's why the freak out is happening, because now all the people who were ignoring their actual responsibilities and their accountability are catching some. That's why you're having this reaction, because the tables are spinning like a turntable and it's crazy. Let's keep going, because I've got a few things that I really want to show you. This is a very important one, guys. It's a little out of my bailiwick, but the arrests are starting. All right. As you can see, here's a little thing. They're starting to arrest judges. Only the ones that break the law. It's kind of like, you can't be a game warden and then poach. It's just not going to work out. Attorney General Pamela Bondi, I can confirm that our FBI agents just arrested Hannah Dugan, a county judge in Milwaukee, for allegedly helping an illegal alien avoid an arrest by ICE. No one is above the law. Now, the left is, seriously, they're collectively losing their minds. Just like when they want guns and the gun rights from the population, they lose their minds. No hyperbolic example is off the table. You're going to see Hitler stuff in a second. But let me show you what was actually happening here, and this is why this is so important. Because accountability. You could also make an argument that the ATF C-level directors that are getting fired are experiencing some accountability. Accountability is what people want. That's what's being demanded because it's obvious the two-tier justice system. Anyway, let's keep going because this is where it starts to get really interesting. So this is what Pamela Bondi said last night. Listen to this.
Madam What's happened to our judiciary is beyond me.
Yeah, so when the American public hears this and they think these were once upstanding people in their communities and their professions, and they put it all on the line for this, I mean, have you dug into their motive? Like, what inspired them to carry out these acts and harbor criminals?
They're deranged is all I can think of. I cannot believe, I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not. And we're sending a very strong message today. If you are harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are. If you are helping hide one, if you are giving a TDA member guns, anyone who is illegally in this country, we will come after you and we will prosecute you. We will find you.
If I could just...
So it's not really that difficult. You can't be a judge doling out sentences for criminals if you're a criminal yourself. Even if you think that law is not just, you're still a judge. You still have to follow the dang thing. Anyway, let's jump into some other stuff because I really want to show you something that this is where the irony comes in. Again, this is where the left is going to lose their collective minds because that due process thing that they're so obsessed with all of a sudden, it's like they found a new shiny toy. It's coming back to bite them a little bit. Watch this. This is a little montage put up by Eric Daugherty.
The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law, no matter what the crime.
And I agree with you. No man is above the law, and no person is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one's above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
He has to be held accountable. He's not above the law.
No one's above the law. Either that nor any other title
puts you above the rule of law.
No one is truly above the law.
That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what it means to not have a king. They're not above the law. Nobody is above the law. Everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as equally.
That no one is above the law, which is foundational.
No one is above the law, even a former president.
Huh.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone. No one is above the law.
The law is the law, and no one should be above it.
Yes, nobody is above the law. No one is above the law.
No one else is above the law, including a president.
Nobody is above the law. You can't have two justice systems in America. It has to be one justice system. And anybody who breaks the law should be held accountable.
And that no one is above the law.
No one is above the law, and our president is not above the law. I always thought that this country, that no one was above the law, especially.
Well, that's a bit of an issue, isn't it? If no one's above the law, and they can go after Trump, and they can convict him of 34 felonies and billion-dollar fines and all that kind of stuff, you're going to run into a little bit of a problem when you see this stuff right here. Wisconsin Democrat Ryan Clancy, Judge Dugan is doing what all of us will be called to do in the days and weeks and months to come. She didn't obstruct justice. She obstructed fascism. Okay. Then this one right here, Elizabeth Warren. Now the FBI arrested a judge threatening our country's judicial system. Again, it was fine when it was going against Trump, but now all of a sudden, no, there are different people who aren't equal. That's where this is going to backfire. As you can see right here, all people are entitled to due process in any functional democracy, except when you have gun rights, right? The entire thing is a big game. So let me get back to you. This is the longer clip. I need the longer clip from Bondi. There she is. I'm going to play a couple pieces of this. And this is why this is so incredibly important. Because the judge that you see on the screen, and she's going to say a few things in a second, was openly breaking the law. Judges can't do that. Accountability is coming back in vogue. All right, let's get to the AG real quick and listen to what she is accusing this person of doing, the judge.
So rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom, you're not going to believe this, takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow. All right, so just real high level. This is absolutely breaking the law. It's not hard. It's accountability. That's why the reaction is such. There's been no accountability for so long. It's like when you have a kid who doesn't get consequences for stepping out of line forever, and then when you do, they lose their ever-loving minds. Same concept. But this judge literally had domestic violence victims inside the courtroom. She had an immigration. She had the actual state's attorney. She had all of them there. She lost her mind on the ICE agents, and then she quickly escorted the perpetrator or the defendant out the door. She gets to go. The defendant goes free, and Trump is going after judges now. No, he's going after criminals because that judge made the move from judge to criminal when she did that. But let me keep going because there's even more of this. Again, this is the key thing to understand. It's a direct correlation to what we fight every day on this channel.
You know, Madam Attorney General, great to have you here, and thanks for coming back on America Report. So we remember these words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th, and his message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So when you see these judges
that guy doesn't give
trying
any
to
Fs.
obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
We've actually just...
All right, so that's a very important part, and I'm going to go to something else in a second, because the video is going to be a little bit longer because there's so many pieces to this. So you had an individual who was in the country, was removed, and then was back in the country, committed violent assaults against people. They were in the courtroom, and this judge is so pissed off because she doesn't want immigration to believe in immigration. She screams at the ICE agents, and then she escorts the defendant out the door and lets them go. And then all of a sudden, Trump's Hitler. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. It sounds like accountability is here, and the children don't like it again. Okay, so now let me jump over here, because this is really important. I want to show you what they're actually saying on mainstream networks from Wisconsin Democrats. Listen to this.
So Judge Dugan was in her right in doing what she did. She didn't obstruct justice. She obstructed fascism in this case.
Because you're saying obstructing justice would be if this had been a court order signed by a judge, which it was not. So, as
right,
you know,
Even
Such
in
an
that case, it does not
untenable
make sense.
position.
We should not have ICE agents in a protected space like a courtroom any more than you'd want ICE agents going into an operating room or a classroom.
What? Okay, and this is the big payoff, and this is where it comes together with the due process, for the Second Amendment, for the movement forward. The accountability is what the population demands. That's that little thing in your gut that makes you even more pissed off whenever you see politicians not get in trouble for embezzling $200 million or bleach bidding servers or breaking federal commission laws, election commission laws, and not having any consequences. It's all infuriating because there's no consequences for them, but if you don't pay your taxes on time, you go to jail. That's the underlying crux. There's no accountability for people who are in positions of power because they're part of the establishment power base. But for us plebeians, we have accountability. That's the entire point. The reason that this is so important is because this judge didn't obstruct fascism like these Democrats want to claim here. What she did was she obstructed an entire case because she didn't like the fact that ICE was involved. That's the entire point. But let's continue because she's obstructing fascism.
Those have historically been protected spaces that are off limits to ICE, and with good reason. You want people feeling safe and secure in a courthouse, either to come to their own trials or to testify against others. And this is really just an attack on the judicial system, which is historically a check and balance on unobstructed executive power. That's what we're seeing from the Trump administration.
now,
Again, guys, they're trying to frame this as an unsolicited abuse of power. They didn't remove the power of the judiciary. What they did was they arrested someone who obstructed the justice that was an ongoing case as a sitting judge. That your actions led to this outcome. This is not Trump hates America and Trump is Hitler. This is quite literally you went down this road and made these decisions, and here are the consequences and the accountability that will follow. It's the stuff that we live with every day. But these guys are trying to frame this from a political standpoint. I don't think it's going to fly. You guys can let me know what you think. Let's finish this up, though.
you worked with Judge Dugan, as I mentioned, for 4 years. Is her behavior, as it's reported, and Whitney was laying it out, what we know, in helping this immigrant consistent with the judge and the person that you know?
Absolutely. She's a prominent, respected member of the Milwaukee legal community. She is not part of any radical community, and I should know because I am. She's been a respected judge and a lawyer for many years without apparent controversy. Targeting her makes no sense.
It is, again, this is what children do. You're mad at me and you don't love me because you punished me when I did something wrong. This is what children do actively. They haven't had consequences for decades at this point, and so the first consequence comes down the road, they start crying bloody murder from the freaking rooftops. Even Burnett right there on the left in the green, she's like, this is kind of a stretch. This is what you're dealing with. But again, go back to everything that you're seeing across the board. ATF officials getting fired. U.S. attorneys are getting fired. They're getting their statements revoked in courtrooms across the nation in regards to the Second Amendment. They're going after the money through USAID. They're going after the money for grants that was given in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Guys, accountability is what's happening. That's why you have such a visceral reaction. I don't want to, but I have to hear this guy talk some more, and then we'll wrap this.
And I think it really is designed to have a chilling effect on state and local officials and on anybody who would push back on the Trump regime.
So she was released on bond after her initial appearance today. You heard, her legal representative saying they're gonna fight vigorously. They believe she'll be exonerated. But do you think, from knowing her, when you talk about the chilling effect of this or what the impact will be, is she willing to? How far is she willing to go? I mean, if it means serving time in jail, if it ever gets to that sort of a thing, is that something you think she'd be willing to do?
Will she be a martyr?
I mean, I'm not going to speculate as to whether or not she's willing to serve time in jail. It is absolutely ludicrous that these charges were brought to begin with. Somebody had just asked me this morning, what can we do to support Judge Dugan?
Hey, you guys, just a little side note, producer thing. I just noticed. You see what's draped over his chair behind him? Asking for the crowd in the back. Let's continue.
So, well, obviously, there aren't going to be charges brought because she hasn't done anything wrong. And several hours later, she was in handcuffs. So this is not something that anybody anticipated. I think, nobody's trying to be a hero here, but Judge Dugan is doing what all of us will be called to do in the days and weeks and months to come, and it's standing up for people in our community that are being targeted by the Trump regime.
It is So, okay, guys, what you're dealing with here, I'm going to give a big screen on real quick so we can wrap this up, because this is an unprecedented thing. I'm not used to talking about accountability for people like judges and ATF C levels. Okay, so what you are dealing with here is a corrupt legal system, not legal system, let me rephrase that. A corrupt judge who quite literally obstructed justice, of which she is charged with maintaining in her courtroom, lets a defendant go while the victims are still in the courtroom, along with the state's attorney. And they're trying to frame this as Trump's going after the judiciary. He's a big main monster. No, this individual broke law as a judge. She has lost all credibility. You cannot continue to go down this road. You now can't be a judge because you are completely compromised. That's the entire point. Notice how they didn't say anything about what actually occurred. It was all about Trump being a big meanie pants, and we've all got to stand up and defeat fascism just like this judge did. It's all emotion-based crap that has nothing to do with what actually happened, because anybody, independents, Democrats, or Republicans, could look at this and say, wait a minute, you did that with a domestic violence defendant who's charged with 30 counts? What? This is why this is so important. All of a sudden, due process matters. By the way, we will remember that when it comes back and they somehow at some point in time start going on red flag laws again. Due process flags will come up and up and up and up and up. But this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to frame this, and even CNN can't frame this because this judge literally broke the law, and it is obvious. You saw it. This is a watershed moment. It truly is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.